people off the bat right now, so we'll just wait a couple seconds and just whistle or something.
We
I
should,
don't know how to whistle.
we should all just be like completely still and see if people think like their screens are frozen. And see how long it takes. See how long it takes. And then when we have enough people, then we can start moving it. I don't know.
Okay, so it's coming up on Facebook. I'm gonna share it. We're live.
Sweet.
Oh, and you're in your piano, bro?
I'm always this is my favorite spot now.
You're in front of your
I'll
piano?
bet.
Yeah, so I just got this piano actually recently from a friend of mine. He's actually a youth pastor, and he gave me the whole piano. He's like, I need to give it. Yeah, it was crazy. He was given like 3 pianos by his church.
Wow.
And he was like, dude, would you want it? And I was like, I can't take a whole piano from you. He's like, dude, the last 2 orders have been worship leaders, so it just makes sense. I don't know. So yeah, he gave me a piano. So I've been dabbling on the keys a little bit.
I just think it's funny because the last thing I did was do some retreats in New Jersey, and then I visited my friend in Brooklyn, and she had in Queens, and she had just received like a free keyboard from her friend. He had to buy it for
Oh my gosh.
something, and just gave it to her after. So good for you guys.
That's wild.
By the way, my dad's from Queens, so represent.
That's cool. That's awesome. My dad's
Awesome.
from
So we're
Queens,
getting so we're getting traction now. So what's up, guys? How's everybody doing? Hope everybody's okay. Today we are honored and happy to have a friend of ours that we recently met and face to face for the first time. So it's great. Catherine, worship leader, great musician, great artist, beautiful voice. We're just talking about that.
Thank you. Yeah.
And yeah, we're so happy to have you.
Thank
join us
you.
today.
Thank you for having me. I was telling the guys that I've been meeting so many other Catholic musicians just through the internet lately, especially with this whole quarantine thing. So it's bringing us together. I'm happy. At least that's out of this. I don't know.
Yeah, actually, and last night, Joe Melendres went on IG Live, right?
Okay.
And he was literally just talking about the same. I guess it's one of the biggest messages that we're receiving, right? That it's such a blessing to be able to have this moments to be able to reach out to each other and see how everybody's doing.
Yeah.
Firstly, but also to connect and kind of slow down and just see where everybody's at and how we can like just keep taking the gospel and just taking it to people, especially now through digital means and all.
Yeah. Honestly, I think one of the biggest things for me as a musician and speaker and all of that I'm receiving from this is that I'm seeing how generous people like you guys, and I've been on some podcasts lately, and people have just been reaching out to me in ministry, and even people like I didn't know before, or we just followed each other on Instagram. And when I first got into music and speaking in that ministry a few years ago, I did sense like there's definitely a competitive nature in some parts of it, just like with anything. But I have not felt that one moment of this whole thing. Like everybody is being so generous and trying to bring one another together and support one another. And it's just like, I just love it. I feel so much love, and I feel just the purity of people's hearts, which is beautiful to see. I don't know if you guys have been feeling that, but I just like a light.
That's a blessing, really.
You know?
Yeah. It's man, I just lost my train of thought. Ricky, you go.
Well, no, I mean, I think that's the beauty of this and how we've been trying to encourage people through this time and what we're doing and new means and like Charlie was saying, and new forms of spreading the gospel, right? Through our testimony, through viral means and whatnot, is that God works everything out for good. The Lord is constantly working out broken situations into something beautiful. And so we got to search for those blessings amid distressings. Because it's a fearful time. We've talked about it in like a bunch of our lives. Like that God does not give us a spirit of fear, but what a power of love and of sound mind. You know what I mean? And so we're using that sound mind to make sure that we transform this dire situation that might be filled with anxiety or fear or whatever it may be into something that we can use for His glory.
I think it's beautiful.
And
definitely.
I remembered.
All right, Charles.
Sweet.
and yeah, no, I mean, it's in the end, when we finished with everything, is that we're all trying to go to the same place together, right? We're trying to go to the kingdom and reach the kingdom together. So,
right.
You're so right.
Why not?
That's the whole point.
But I like the competitive nature in there too, because it pushes each of us to keep getting better. That's a good part about it.
I'm like, maybe I should like more of that competitive nature. Growing up, I played soccer and I was a goalie and I was like ultra competitive, like on very competitive teams. But something changed in me, and like once I got into ministry, like any of the competition, I'm like, no, I don't like it. So yeah, I don't know. Everything, things work differently for each person, but I get what you're saying for sure.
Yeah, true.
The best thing is,
I think it's like as long as
go for it.
Okay, thanks. So I think like as long as you can drive the competition in an accountability kind of way, let's put it that way.
Yes.
Where it's like, it's not like you're going against each other, but rather you're pushing one another to do better, to grow in a way, especially growing spiritually. Like that's super important, especially in these times. Like,
I completely agree. Like I moved to Nashville this past summer, like during my birthday weekend. It was interesting. And one thing I found about living in Nashville among all of these other musicians, even if they're not Christian or Catholic musicians or whatever, is that I guess I do feel that like the good spirit of competition there, where everybody is going after their dreams or after whatever it is. Even you see people in coffee shops, like now I can't be in coffee shops and I'm at home right now, but when I was in coffee shops, you just feel the energy of these people just like going after it. And I'm telling you, it made me go after it way more, because my personality is like, I become more ambitious when I'm around ambitious people. And if I'm not around people that have a purpose, it's not that I don't have a purpose, but I do lose a little bit of the ambition, and I'm not pushed to be my best. I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely.
But I get what you guys are saying for sure.
And that's the important part. Like that's kind of changes your mentality and your aspect in life. Like, when the people that you're surrounded with are the people that are going to keep pushing you to get to want to reach your goals and, and dream big dreams, So that's great. That's awesome.
Competing with yourself too, competing with like the person that was, yesterday's self, and like, how can I be better in all aspects of my life today, as opposed to comparing to myself from yesterday, you know what I mean? So whether that be spiritually, whether that be in a way of, increasing the platform, because the more, the more eyes and ears, the more hearts that we're able to impact. You know what I mean?
You're right.
So that's for me. Like that's the huge competitive aspect of it. Is like, how can we be better than the day before? How can we be better about, explaining our message or expressing our message better in the newest song that we're about to release, as opposed to the old one. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I see that in you guys a lot. I see that you guys are always trying to be better. And like I said, like we haven't met each other at all until today, aside from maybe like speaking on the phone or texting or especially like Instagram DM. But on Instagram, I have, because that's like the platform I'm always on. I see you guys are always pushing to be better. And it's, so even on there, I guess it is like a little bit of a boost for me. I'm sorry if you're hearing all of these like noises. I keep getting emails and I don't know how to turn that off while also listening to you guys. But yeah, so I see you guys doing that a lot, and it is encouraging for sure. You guys display that a lot.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Amen. All through God.
So Dana, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? So everybody that's watching, especially for the people that down here in Miami, know better of who Dana is, because we're supposed to have something later on this year.
Yeah, I mean, that should still be going on, right? I mean, it's kind of
Yeah.
yeah, okay. So I am currently I'm in North Carolina. I'm from North Carolina. I am now based in Nashville when I'm not living in a pandemic stricken world. And I started music. I've always sung, I've always written songs, but I went to UNC Chapel Hill here in North Carolina, and in the middle of that, I like really fell in love with God, and I was writing all these songs that were all of a sudden just about him because he was honestly like my first love. And you guys know, like, you just want to write about what you care about the most. And so I just like my songs turned into like just pop music to like and secular stuff to just being all about the Lord, and it was still pop music. But yeah, and by the end of senior year of college, it's a miracle. It's a long story. I'll have to share later, but the miracle of just being able to record this album, even though I didn't sing in front of anybody until 2015, like ever. I hated it.
Oh, wow.
And so after that, I became it's weird. Yeah. And so after that, I became a youth minister for a little bit, for like 2 years. And that's how I got into speaking, giving talks, which I didn't even know that was a thing, that you would travel around and give talks and then share your music. And so now this is my full-time thing, and like God like completely pushed me into it, because I don't know if I told you, but like with my disposition, it's like if God doesn't push me to do something, I'm probably just going to sit at home content, like praying, loving God, the people around me, right? Because I don't like competition or anything like that. And so God pushed me into this in a really good way. And so I love it. I travel all around. I just play like my music's pop R&B. Some of it's kind of crossover now, where it's like if somebody's not Christian, they might not exactly know it's about God until maybe the bridge where I bring him up or something like that. Because I definitely have a heart for people that maybe have fallen away from the Lord, or maybe they just never to know him. Like maybe the amount of people that have grown up in families, whether they're like whole families or broken families, that they just didn't learn about the Lord, and like they weren't really given a chance. I have such a heart for those people, and I know I encounter some people where they would think about that group of people and say like they're just horrible, they don't know God, they don't love God. But for me, I'm like, well, maybe they didn't have a chance, because if they really knew the Lord, they would want him just as much as I do. And so that's what my music's really, it's for the whole church, but I especially also want to reach outside of the church and bring people into the church and into the heart of God with us, because how could you not want to do that, you know?
We align with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's so great, because we have a similar story then in that sense, because that's something that we when we started, that's kind of like what we wanted to do, because especially our producer Daniel, he also, besides producing and with us in the Christian world, he's also a secular producer. That's his full-time gig.
Okay.
So one of his things is that when he's going to all of these sessions and recording with this artist, he sees sometimes like how lost they are, and he speaks to them about what he believes, and they respect it, and they're like, man, like they just keep asking questions. So he sees the curiosity,
Yeah.
So when we started, that's one of the biggest things that we wanted to do with our lyrics and everything that we wrote. Of course, we'll have our songs that will say, and we'll convictly say the name of God and Jesus, right? And then some of them will leave it more in a general sense, so they know, they kind of, if you follow us, you know what we're talking about.
Exactly.
But also some other people that maybe don't believe so much.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a place for everything. And so all of my friends that are doing just like straight up worship music, or just like straight up CCM, like Christian contemporary Christian music, where it's like obviously about God and it's meant to praise him and worship him, that is one lane people can be in, and God needs that, like the world needs that. But then I think there's this lane that the Lord really, like, it's not like it hasn't been there, but I think the Lord's really creating it during this time, especially because there are so many people in the world who are they're good people, right? Like I just see, I mean, we should be seeing the good in everybody, right? And I just see people's hearts, and they're wounded, or they have experiences that have caused them to have the wrong image of God the Father. for one reason or another, there's just a wall between them and the Lord. But if that wall was broken down, like what could happen, right? And I think more people than ever need music that bridges the gap between like ultra Christian and I know the Lord and I'm walking with him, and then secular music, which is like leading people astray a lot of times. You know, like I have to like lately turn off some music because I'm like, what? Like even if I like the beat or I like the tune and the melody because I'm all about that, like I just can't I can't listen to some of it now because I'm like, what are these words? What are they talking about? So there needs to be like something to bridge the gap, I think. Sometimes.
Absolutely. I think that's amazing, but you know, I think it creates an avenue for people that might not have ever been comfortable with finding that. I don't know, because it's been interesting for us, at least. I'll speak for us. Is like we've had experiences where people will come to like a concert of ours, and they come expecting like, oh, this dancey, you know, kind of Miami pop group, so on and so forth, because they didn't really like get into the nitty gritty of what the lyrics are saying.
Yeah.
And so they come and we start out upbeat, you know how you do, and then we get into the worship, and they're like, we had no idea what this is. And so, and you know, we're proclaiming the name of the Lord fervently. You know what I mean? It's amazing because like they come away with a message that they never would have expected. You know, and a lot of people. You know, a lot of people have said, like, man, I listened to your song. I didn't even realize until the end, like, oh my gosh, this is speaking about the Lord.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
It's like mission accomplished.
Yeah, exactly. I was watching the Coldplay, I think it was the Coldplay documentary. I think it came out like last year, but for some reason it showed up on my Netflix or my Amazon Prime a few weeks ago. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but
I haven't.
Not yet, actually.
So it's really, really interesting. It was, there's so much you can learn from that, but they showed so many like shots of Chris Martin and the whole band, like in the middle of obviously like stadiums full of thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people. And they showed close-ups of the people in the audience. And so often, because they were talking about like behind the scenes, they had the voiceover of Chris just talking about how music really connects people and people need this, right? Because they're broken and whatever else. And I saw these pictures of like, or these visuals of these people like crying to like singing to songs that are not about the Lord at all.
Right.
They're connecting to something that is freeing them. And I told my mom, I was sitting there, I was like, but oh my, like that's amazing. I'm obsessed with Coldplay. I love their music. But imagine, and this is happening already, but imagine stadiums full of people, like those same people. But then at the end of that song, they're being pointed to the Lord too. Like, I don't know. I was just like, that's the thing God has. Not that Hillsong isn't doing it in Bethel and all of that, but if we just even had more musicians doing that, and maybe necessarily they don't have to be like, it doesn't have to be just worship, but it can be like anything we're doing that's coming from a heart that loves God, and it's always somehow leading to God in our music.
That it can, in a sense, like be more mainstream per se, right? Like, you know, how it's kind of like what Kanye is doing right now. Like you know, everybody knows who Kanye is, right? But now you know, he's like, well, now I'm going to worship Jesus because that's my savior. You know? It's like, now that's like the mainstream thing. Like, oh, well, Kanye is doing it, so I got to.
I know. It's so true. I think God's doing something, honestly.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you look at, like, I mean, you also, we don't know where people are in their walk with the Lord, and we don't need to judge that. But like, I'm saying that because like Justin Bieber, I don't know where he is with God, but he does talk about God. And like, he had that one song where he was singing Reckless Love, like on a stage full of thousands of people, right? Or in front of thousands of people. I think God is definitely doing something. And I'm excited to be like a small part of it and for you guys to be a part of it. And, you know.
And Lauren Daigle was supposed to be in Coachella, so that's a big thing too.
I know. And I think the thing that's crazy is like, I mean, I know people around Lauren and back in Nashville, and that I'm pretty positive that whole thing with her crossing over, guys, that was like not planned. Like that was a complete fluke that her music crossed over to mainstream. And so once again, that's just the way that the Lord can work like so clearly behind the scenes. People don't even understand. Like she's even said it though on podcasts and stuff that I did not know this was going to happen. The Lord told me to rest for a year. So I completely took off. And then once we started up again, God just completely like helped my music cross over to like millions of people that are outside of the CCM world. So you're right. I was excited for that, but Coachella is canceled.
Wow.
Yeah. And talking about that, so what are you doing? Not like what's your day to day like? Since for example, like all of our events have been canceled.
Yes.
And right now, I mean, I don't know what your plans were, but like for us, like we had a plan in the summer to have our summer tour, but we don't even know if that's gonna happen yet, because So like, what are you doing to kind of like what's your day to day right now to just keep kind of like the creativity going in your mind?
Yeah, so I think it's to preface it, I think it's kind of funny because the Lord like very clearly like wanted me to book a college tour and a house tour for the month of March. And I for like
Nice.
months I was like, God, are you sure? Like I've never done this. Also, a lot of colleges like aren't very used to having a Christian like who am I? Like what is my lane anyway? Like I play kind of Christian music, like very Christian music, and then some that's just like kind of about God, and that's not been brought to a lot of colleges.
Right.
They're used to Eucharistic adoration and like all of that, not just a concert. And so it took a while, but I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be obedient, God. I'm going to show you I trust in you. And so I booked this tour. And yeah, it was just like, it was pretty, I mean, it doesn't seem that brave, but for me, I was like, I'm going to do something I've never done before. And we'll see if it works. And it was all set, and I was set to announce it. And then this whole thing started, and all of these colleges were shut down, and everybody was like, I'm so sorry, but I don't think we're able to do this because we can't gather. And it's just funny, like kind of funny. It's obviously very serious, but it's funny that it's like all the colleges that I was at, they were the first ones to recognize this like state of emergency or whatever and send everybody home. And I was like, are you kidding me, God? Like you told me to do this. He knows everything that's happening, right? He knew we were going to have this, but I think it was honestly looking back, I think it was just the act of obedience that God wanted, which is really interesting. And I'm fine. If God just wanted my obedience, well, that's good, but we'll see what that did in my heart. But so Daytoday now, because that's obviously canceled. A lot of other conferences and stuff are canceled. To be like real, up until like today or maybe yesterday, I was just trying to figure what the heck was going on in the world. Like I was just trying to figure out, God, what are you, and we can't understand everything, but what are you doing through this, Lord? Because you didn't send all of this stuff, but you do want to work like through it right now. And so am I supposed to be at home really just like resting in you for a little bit? Because my spirituality, and it always has been, is more just like, I'm going to spend a lot of time with the Lord. Like I always say, I could be a cloistered nun if I was called to that, but I'm pretty positive I'm not. But like I'll just, I've always spent so much time with God and in scripture and like spontaneous prayer and all of that. And then I do the work, but then the Lord really, like, I don't do enough work for the amount of success that I've had, because it's really the Lord giving to an open heart. And so, and I'm just receiving it humbly, even though that kind of hurts sometimes, because you're like, I don't deserve this. Like I've done nothing really. You're giving me everything. And so I'm like, God, do I need to spend more time in prayer right now? Is that what you're calling me to do? Should I be doing something like you guys are doing, where you just like went at it? You're like, okay, how can we be a light in the midst of all of this stuff? And so honestly, I've been very in my head lately. That's me. I've been trying to have some structure. It has, like, just being honest, it has not been happening so far. But I have been making sure that I work out, or like take a walk outside every day, which is so good for me. I'm writing a lot because I can't not write songs. And so you can write, my guitar over there. And what else? I have a new song that came out right where you want me. I think it was last month. But I have a song that
I think I heard it. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, thank you. I have a song that's coming out in a few months, so we're working on like finalizing that stuff. And honestly, what I feel like the Lord is just saying, like during this time for me, is that He wants me to work on just to like sow into my future, to show trust in Him, to say like what am I going to bring to the world, not just in the middle of this, because I have live streams and stuff that I'm doing like this, or like a concert tomorrow on Instagram, but how can I sow into my future after this whole crazy like thing ends? So I'm working with a few people on events that we can be doing after this and what I can offer in terms of talks and concerts and stuff like that. So that's what I'm doing now. And I'm spending time with my family, honestly.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Because I'm
Yeah.
away from them a lot. So
By
what
the
are you
way,
guys doing?
real quick, before we answer that, we're going to do a little quick shout out to Oso Tecum from New York. He also says, Reina, I love your music.
Hey,
Your
thank
song.
you.
So blessings. And we also have Alejandra from Mexico. So saludo, Alejandra.
Saludo.
Yeah. And anyway, so what are we doing, guys? Do you want to take a go?
Maybe I can learn.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so like, it's funny you talk about like what got working with God to like sow into your future and stuff, because like it had me thinking of this spiritual exercise that Ricky and I are actually doing called Exodus 90.
Oh,
where
yes.
it's like pretty much. So yeah, so you know about it, right?
Yeah, it's like
so
hardcore.
anyone that doesn't know about it, yeah, there's like a handful of things that we're just like giving up in our daily lives. Like we're making sure that we're taking cold showers. Regular and intense exercise is actually one of them too. So
Yeah.
that's always fun. But yeah, no, and just keeping up with daily prayer and everything. And a lot of the meditations, like we're still on Moses trying to get the Hebrews out of Egypt right now in that book. But yeah, it spoiler alert, it takes a lot of work from God at least. But yeah, so it's like we're only on like what, day 24, day 25, something like that. Yeah, and it's like even then, like I'm looking forward, like not only in the next 75 days, like how I'm going to be able to grow in freedom, how God is going to lead me through that, walk with me through that, but even beyond the 90 days, like for the rest of my life, if you think about it, because it's like, yeah, eventually this season of us being in solitude is going to be over, but it's like, okay, what fruits can we grow out of this that we can take moving forward? Like, okay, like for example, we're connecting more with our families. I think a lot of people are connecting more with their families now, or tearing their hair out. But
I do that too.
you know, it's like,
great.
yeah. So it's like once you get back into the regular swing of things, like, what are you going to take from that? Like, are people just going to go back into their regular lives, or are they going to take what they've learned from this season of, I don't know, maybe growing more patient with your next door neighbor? Who knows?
Yeah.
And let's take that moving forward and just growing closer with God, like what we were talking about earlier. You know.
Yeah, I think the amazing thing, and I think what he's calling all of us to do, you know, I mean, like I've been said, we're on the fast, and a huge part of the fast is learning how to trust totally and completely and fully in the Lord, right? New way and deeper level, because we're removing all these distractions. You know, tons of different things like social media, different kinds of aspects of media right now, which right now, obviously, with everyone kind of running to these distractions, obviously, it just calls us to greater trust, and for all of us that are going through this together, like all of us are in this parallel journey of trying to get through this time and walk with it and kind of make sense of everything. And I think it's really, like I said before, like the Lord always works everything for good. And he's calling us to deeper levels of trust and clinging to him. And during this time, you know, I was actually watching like a sermon from Judah Smith, and he was talking about when the Lord ascended into heaven, when Jesus ascended into heaven, and how the apostles were actually like left that moment with jumping for joy. You know what I mean? Because they knew first and foremost, like the glory of the Lord, like they'd seen it firsthand. They'd gotten this eyewitness account, and then two, that they knew that the Holy Spirit would be coming very soon. You know what I mean? And so like during this time, you know, as we're walking, as we're trying to cling closer to the Lord, you know, the Holy Spirit walks with us too, and he guides us, and he grows in that trust. And before we move on, actually, I wanted to mention something, because I was listening to your song, Surrender Song, today. And I think it goes hand in hand with everything that we've been talking about and everything. And there's a lyric that I loved a lot, and I think that everyone could really take with them in this time, from Surrender Song. And by the way, it's a great song.
Thank you.
I really like it. And so the lyric is this. Correct me if I get it wrong, but it's I've been thinking a lot about where my heart's at. Is it all yours, or am I holding it back? You're a father of love. Make me a child of trust.
Yeah.
And first of all, I love that, like, evaluating, like, during this time, like, it's such an important time for us all to do a heart check.
Yes, I've been saying that, a heart check. You're right.
Yeah, you know, like, you know, the Lord can be really, I mean, for me and Ivan specifically, like going through this fast, like I know for me, he's doing heart surgery on me right now. You know, he's healing a lot of broken things and wounds that I really need, needed addressing, that I never really realized that needed addressing, right? And so it's been a heart check for me. He's been doing heart surgery on me, and I think we can all have a little bit of a heart check. So that line, I've been thinking a lot about where my heart's at. Is it all yours, or am I holding it back?
Mm-hmm.
And then going even further to the "You're a Father of love,"
Yeah.
make a child of trust. And in this time, how can we trust the Lord deeper and more fervently in this time? How can we completely and fully and totally give him our whole hearts and slow things down, you know, and really walk with him in this time, you know?
Yeah, it's funny that you're repeating my own lyrics to me, because I'm realizing how I was talking to God the other day. I was praying and I was like, dude, all I do with my ministry is talk about trust and surrender. Like those are the two, like Saint Teresa of Lisieux, right? Like God is a good father, so I'm going to be a good or a child, not even a good child sometimes. And he's just going to pick me up and he's going to do everything for me. Honestly, he's going to do everything for me. We have to do very little.
Right.
Honestly, in terms of like how much he's giving us back and how much we're giving him. It's like not a fair trade for him, at least. But I've been realizing I talk about that all the time. And yet in the middle of all this stuff, because my life was going like 1,000 miles an hour, I was chasing my dreams in Nashville. There were things happening with labels and all of that stuff that I had no clue what happened so quickly. And then everything is interrupted. Like everything I have to, like, I'm going home, like I'm not hearing from anybody because nobody's able to go to like their offices anymore. And I realized, oh my gosh, Lord, I think through this you're kind of just like trying to bring me back to the start of why I even wanted to do any of this in the first place. It's because I trusted you so much and my heart was all yours before I had any opportunities that people would dream of, right? Like I had nothing traveling around or labels or anything like that. And I still just like gave my whole heart to God. And so like piece by piece, I'm realizing I had it attached to all these other things, even if they're good things too. It was just maybe my heart was a little bit too attached to those good things. And it's definitely a walk of trust with the Lord. I think this whole experience. And I think if people dive into that, like I'm really trying to dive into it. If we dive into that, there's going to be so much fruit at the end of this whole thing. And the Lord is going to work through us even more, because the more surrendered our heart is, the more more available we are, the more God can just work through it. Like it's just like a vessel, right? The clean, like more cleaned out it is of itself, the more he can fill it. So
amen. And it's special to hear that, especially through this time, because a lot of people are filled with fear about, you know, the uncertainty of things, of how things are going to go, and when can we go back out, what happens when we go back out, you know, like when they actually tell us, okay, it's okay to go out. In the end, we just have to trust, and we've got to have faith that, you know, Jesus is going to look over us, and we have to go. I mean, at some point, we're going to have to go back to our normal lives, and we just got to have that faith that we'll be fine, and we can go forward with our lives, you know?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I was listening to, so you said you were listening to Judah Smith. I was listening to Pastor Bill Johnson from Bethel. I'm like obsessed with all these people. Like I obviously go to mass and I love my Catholic faith, but then like our Protestant brothers and sisters are like, they've got so much that we can learn from. And so I was listening to Pastor Bill Johnson the other day, and he was talking about how we can live correctly and with abundance, and as children of God through this. And there was three things, but one of the things he was saying, apart from those things, I forget what it was, but fasting is a huge thing. He thinks that a lot of people are thinking that, it's not just him, right? But like God is really calling those of us who can fast, because we're healthy enough to fast, first of all, for an end to all of this, for the Lord to work in people's hearts that maybe never turned to him before, so that he can really show them who he is, but also for us to detach ourselves from all the things that are holding us back. And I wanted to ask you guys, how is Exodus 90? I know fasting is a big part of it. What do you do for that? Because I think it's crazy. Like, it's amazing, but it's also crazy. I'm not sure I'd be able to do it. But I've always, like, it sounds weird, but I've always really admired fasting, but I'm very bad at fasting, honestly. And so what has it done for you? How has it, like, I guess, brought the Holy Spirit, I guess, in a new way into your lives, or attached you to the Lord in a deeper way?
Ivan, do you want to start?
I guess so. Like at first, for me, it was a lot of thinking of, okay, what I'm gonna eat, and making sure that I prepare my meals for the coming days. Yeah, because it's like for Wednesdays and Fridays, like it's the same fast that we do for Lent, like on Ash Wednesday and Good Friday. We just do it every Wednesday and Friday during the 90-day period.
Oh,
At
okay.
least in a food sense. There's other stuff that we're like fasting from, limiting our internet use to school and work purposes, only abstaining from like sweets, from soda and sweetened drinks. So pretty much just drinking water. And I guess if you do coffee, make sure it doesn't have sugar, little things like that, But for me, it's been little opportunities to be able to kind of die to self, where you can offer those moments up to God and be like, okay, God, what are you trying to teach me through this kind of thing? Especially for me, because like, at least in a nutritional sense, I was trying to go on a bulk. Like I was working out at the gym, lifting weights and everything. So there's a caloric intake that I had to keep up in a sense,
Yeah.
kind of build muscle and all. But yeah, so like going into this with fasting days at least. At first I'm thinking, okay, how am I gonna eat in the remaining days so I can make up for those days? But
Oh,
at
so
the
you're
same
still
time, it's
trying
like,
to bulk in the middle of this?
well, at first I was, but just the way everything's been going, like, I don't know, I've been finding a lot more peace, at least through my prayer, at least.
Yeah.
Just kind of taking it easy, taking a step back, at least in my own life with that sense, because it's like, there's not a lot that I can work with. I mean, obviously I can't make it to the gym. Like the gym's closed. Most gyms are closed, if not all of them,
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, there's just a lot of adjustments, a lot of transitionings where, maybe I don't have to worry about that right now in my life.
No, that's true.
And that's a lot of things that I think it's what's teaching us in Exodus 90, that there's a lot of things that we use in our daily lives that we think we have to have them, that in a way we don't realize it, but we're attached to them.
Yeah.
And it's also the things that in some way, shape, or form, they're taking us away from an opportunity to be with God. And it's not necessarily just in prayer, but it's just like being mindful of Him in our thoughts and in our actions and stuff. So it's like, at least that's what's been eye-opening for me. In the more recent days, admittedly, but I'm excited to where more it'll take me.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, and like I've said, this is a lot of the things that we are removing from our life during this 90-day period. It's just it's about self-denial, self-discipline, and really using that time, that extra time, for productivity, but really to unite our hearts with the heart of the Father. And you know what I mean? And it's just aligning our heart with His will for our lives. And like I said before, but growing in a deeper trust for Him. You know what I mean? And kind of like, in a sense, like all these distractions are like kind of exiting out of Egypt, right, in the book of Exodus, and then going into like the promised land, right, in freedom, true freedom. And the only place you can really truly find freedom is in the Lord. But so like Ivan was saying, there's a bunch of different things, and one thing that's really important: no snacking in between meals on the regular days. It's three meals a day. Those Wednesdays and Fridays, you get 2 small meals and 1 regular meal. No meat. We've got and so the cold showers is a big thing. A lot of the gentlemen have not been enjoying the cold showers. Only uplifting music to the Lord.
Okay.
Let's see what else. And then the holy hour every day is the most important thing. We do every day. Along with going through the readings of Exodus, we make sure to just have at least anywhere between 20 minutes to an hour of quiet time with the Lord, and within that holy hour. And obviously it's a little bit, a lot of us, we're going to the Blessed Sacrament, before we can close down. Unfortunately, obviously right now with how everything is, we can't go to the Blessed Sacrament, but we've been finding other ways to have quiet time with the Lord. Like I've been going out in nature, like at nights during sunset. I've just been been praying. Like on Saturday, we didn't have rehearsal for the first time in a long time. So I just had I felt like God was calling me to have breakfast with Him for some reason. And I just went out and I had breakfast, and I was just speaking to the Lord like the whole time.
Awesome.
It was super dope. So
Was
yeah.
that you who posted on your Instagram page? It was like somebody was eating breakfast outside, it looked like, and they're like, what are you doing with your day?
Well, so we're not on social media at all because of the thing. We're only getting on social media for the band.
True.
Yeah.
For band related. Yeah.
But yeah, no, like I was saying, just finding more freedom and finding like true, actual, like perfect peace, and like allowing the Lord to work through those things that He needs to work through. And you're mentioning before being obedient, being obedient to His will, in whatever form or fashion that might come. You know what I mean? And just allowing Him to work and allowing Him to do what He does, because like you said, we don't really do much in this relationship with Him and this intimacy with Him. He's really the one that pulls the most weight.
Yeah.
So He's been, I'm sure, with the rest of our fraternity brothers that are doing this, he's been working in a major way. So it's been amazing to see.
By the way, Ricky, there's a comment by Eric Mueller saying there is Perpetual Adoration live stream going on. So hey,
yes,
there are.
Father Mueller right now.
One that I discovered.
Hey, Father.
Yeah, one that I discovered was actually from a convent in London. I think it's the Tyburn convent. But yeah, somebody shared it with me. It was actually a buddy of ours from the Exodus 90 group that heard about it and shared it with us. The first night that I went on there, that was just beautiful. I mean, I was immediately setting the mood a little in my room, just kind of dimming the lights a bit. But seriously, like at least, being able to be there with Christ in a way, shape, or form. And there are a lot of local parishes that are apparently opening up their own YouTube channels to do Perpetual Adoration. There's one near us in Weston, St. Catherine Drexel, that's doing a live stream of their Perpetual Adoration chapel too. And it's like, it's great. It's awesome to see how the Catholic community, at least, has been like making this transition of like reaching out to everyone digitally.
Oh,
and everything.
yeah.
So it's like,
yes, that's a fruit. That's a definite fruit of all of this.
Oh, I agree. I think like I was talking about like watching some sermons and stuff from our Protestant brothers and sisters. I think it's great now that Catholics hopefully will be able to have mass online, like even just for shut-ins, or for anybody who wants to see what mass is all about, or for people that are sick or whatever. Like I love that that's happening, because usually you can watch all these other services online, but it was very hard to find Catholic services online. So I'm really excited about that. That is definitely that's coming from all of this.
Yes, absolutely.
So we kind of went a little bit over from what we expected, but hey, that's the Holy Spirit talking through us, and we let them work. We let them work.
We got through one question, I think.
But Dana, anything you want to leave us off with? Anything that you have coming out soon? I know you have a concert tomorrow, a live stream concert. Yeah.
So if anybody wants to hear my music live from my bedroom or my library or wherever it will be tomorrow, if you go to Dana Catherine Music on Instagram, or I'll probably do Facebook as well, I'll have a live streamed concert tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And then I have some music out, a song called Right Where You Want Me and Surrender Song. Those are the two latest singles. And yeah, thank you for having me, guys. It was so great to finally like meet some of you, at least.
Definitely. And we're looking forward to, God willing, we're able to do that event in October. So we can definitely meet in person. So that'll be great. Yeah. So God bless you guys and keep doing what you're doing. And I'm sure you guys are offering up the Exodus 90 stuff too for so many intentions. So pray for all of us. I think we all need it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Amen.
No, absolutely.
For everybody that's listening,
prayers all around.
Dana Catherine Music, Dana Catherine on Spotify, right?
Yes.
And you can find her music, and if you can't find it, we have her on our playlist. So if you go on Epic the Band, you find you find her music on our playlist, so it's easier to find you. So hey, we leave it off, and thank you for joining us, and hopefully,
thank you guys so much.
And keep doing it. Amazing.
Thank you. You guys too.
Bye, Father Mueller. Good. Thanks.
Bye, Father Mueller.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. We appreciate it.